everyone, it's Sevi, and the Nahida and Nilou character and weapon banners are out, so as usual, I'm going to give my quick review of them and my overall thoughts on their value. So let's get started. Starting with the featured 5 stars on the character banner. Now, Nahida has gotten a lot of praise, and rightfully so, since she is such a high value Denjo unit that really elevated the Denjo meta, and it was already great to begin with. So while no 5-star is technically a must pull, Nahida is one of those units that comes close, and if you don't have her yet, she can really give your account a lot of value and enhance a lot of Denjo based comps. And as an Archon, she'll hold a top spot in the Denjo roster, and by virtue of her element and her flexibility as a support, on-field, off-field, applicator, and her many utilities, she's very likely going to have a lot of long-term value. My next video on this channel will be something about my updated thoughts and reflections on Nahida, so you can wait for that if you want a deeper dive. I also made a 4-part series guide on her that covers a lot, so much of her team possibilities, because that's just how good she is when it comes to expanding your team comps. So if you're pulling for her, then definitely have no regrets or doubts, because she is going to be an excellent pull, and I do hope you get her soon. That said, Hoyo will also likely rerun her regularly enough, since she is a much desired unit. She's also an Archon, so if this isn't the patch that you plan on getting her in, or if you fail to get her, there's definitely going to be more opportunities down the line. Nilou, on the other hand, is an interesting unit because of how strong her enhanced bloom teams are, and the unique team requirements to do so. I've already talked a lot about her in my last video, so you can check that out if you want to hear my thoughts on her, but since her release, she and her teams have grown a lot more, and with more Denjo units on the way, and Fontaine, the Nation of Hydro, coming soon, presumably, there's going to be a lot more room for Nilou to bloom. So if you have neither of them, Nahida is going to be my priority recommendation because of her more general overall value for so many Denjo teams and your entire account. But if you're one of the few players who is pulling for both of them, then that's even better for Nilou, because Nahida plus Nilou is an insanely good combo. Moving on to the 4 stars, and we have Kuki, Layla, and Dori. I find it a bit funny that they put Kuki and Dori in the same banner, because they have overlapping roles as an electro healer and applicator. And between the two of them, I would take copies of Kuki over Dori any day. This is because Kuki's application and healing are more tied to her skill, which makes her more convenient to use, while Dori's support utility is mostly from her burst. Now, Kuki's C2 is especially good because it increases the duration of her skill, making her an even better hyperbloom trigger and team healer. And in many Quicken and Hyperbloom teams, Kuki serves as an overall amazing unit for consolidating that role of healing and electro application while not being confined to circle impact. Overall, she is a 4-star whose value has gone quite up ever since Denjo came out. Dori can technically work as a Hyperbloom trigger too if you really want to play Hyperbloom with her, and some other niche roles like an on-field DPS or driver. I made a recent video showcasing her in Hyperbloom teams, but again, her more general function is that of a support, healing and batterying, mainly through her burst. And while she's not going to be on the generally highly recommended list, she is workable if you choose to do so, and as long as you are aware of her considerations. Layla is a really solid shielder. She can give almost constant uptime since her shield duration and cooldown are the same, and her shield is pretty strong if you build her as a dedicated shield support. Now, she already does her main function at C0, but her C1 is great for even more protection. So among these 4 stars, I would say that the best pickup is Kuki, but it's a great opportunity to get copies of these newer Sumeru 4 stars also, especially if you're a longtime player like myself. I am still lacking constellations for Dori and Layla in particular. Moving on to the weapon banner, and the featured 5 stars are Key of Khaj-nisut for Nilou and 1000 Floating Dreams for Nahida. Now let's start with the key. So the key is currently a very niche weapon. It's best in slot for Nilou because it gives a ton of HP, which boosts her entire team's bloom damage, and it lets her buff her teammates' EM based on her HP stat, which is a lot. So for Nilou bloom teams, this weapon will be crazy. I mean, if you really want to invest into that team, then you can definitely consider going for the key. There are still free-to-play and alternative weapon choices for her, though since we don't have other dedicated HP weapons yet, they are not as potent as the key is on her. However, I am speculating that we might get more HP weapons when we get to Fontaine, so there might be hope for Nilou's weapon options to expand. Now, if you get the key somehow and no Nilou, then at least you have a couple of other HP scaling sword characters to work with, such as Kuki, who uses HP for her healing, and Layla for her shield. It's not the end of the world, despite it being quite a niche weapon at the moment. The other 5-star is 1,000 Floating Dreams, which is Nahida's signature weapon and general best in slot for giving her a high EM stat and a passive effect that gives the user an EM or elemental damage buff based on their teammates' elemental types. The weapon also boosts the rest of the team's EM. That said, Nahida has so many alternative catalysts ranging from 3 stars to craftables to limited 4 stars and 5 stars of course, that are still very good and competitive. So I think that 1,000 Floating Dreams is great for aesthetics, but in terms of pull value, it's not something I would prioritize. Now for the 4-star weapons, it's EM Impact, since 4 out of 5 of these are EM weapons. Stringless is a great addition, particularly amazing on Fischl and Venti, and then there's Xiphos Moonlight, which is a really great new EM sword for anyone who generally scales on EM. It converts EM into ER for the user and your team, and anything that helps with your team's energy is often really good in general. Then there's the Sacrificial Fragments, that's also good on EM scaling catalyst users who would also benefit from the cooldown reduction passive, though you would want refinements to really make the reduction effect fit well into rotations. For the pole arm, there's the Dragon's Bane, which is weird because it very recently ran on 2 consecutive banners, so I have no idea why it's rerunning again really soon. I feel like Hoyo forgot there are other 4-star pole arms out there, but anyway, for characters that also want EM, then there you go, it's great, it's there. Then the last and odd one out is the Favonius Greatsword. As a Favonius weapon, there isn't much to say other than it's a welcome addition if you have Claymore users that are particularly energy hungry, and you can also use it to address the team's overall energy needs, which is the Favonius series in a nutshell. So overall, I'm quite glad to see Xiphos on the banner again, since I think it's a really good 4-star weapon, but it's not a weapon banner I would generally pull on unless you either really want to invest into Nilou's teams or you really want to get those signature weapons for the featured 5 stars. It's probably one of the lower priority weapon banners that we've seen lately. And that's going to be all for this video. Let me know your thoughts on the banners down below in the comments, and if it helped you out, don't forget to leave a like, consider subscribing to my channel if you haven't already, and I will see you all soon. Take care!